Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope everybody's day is going great. Don't you guys worry. Of course, I'm coming back with some more Overwatch League content. Yesterday was just a little trial run. I do have to find some other types of content during the off season that I can upload, guys, because it's going to be very hard to upload daily when there is no Overwatch League every single week. Anyways, enough about that. Today, we're going to be talking about Overwatch League salaries. Could it really be up to $1 million come Season 3? At least that's what Monte Cristo thinks. We're going to cover all of that. Then second, I want to talk about the San Francisco vs. Seoul Dynasty set. We're going to cover that entire set, but more specifically be talking about Sinatraa, especially since we're talking about salary early on. He pretty much is paid the highest out of anybody that is publicly known, $150,000. So we're going to cover that. Then after, we're going to talk about the Houston Outlaws Boston Uprising set. I know a lot of people want me to talk about this one, so I'll get into that. And then at the end of the video, we're going to be taking a look at the overall standings, talk a little bit about all the other games we didn't cover from this week, and see who has the best odds of making the overall playoffs, because the race is just getting tighter and tighter, and we really have some good matches coming up this week. So let's go ahead and hop into this video, guys. If you're new around here, do not forget to like the video, subscribe for daily Overwatch League content, and now let's do it. Alright, and starting the video off with the salaries. So right now, a lot of the players, I would say, are averaging around $70,000 to $80,000 per year. As for the length of these contracts, I would say it varies a decent amount. There's a lot of players on 1 years. There's a lot of players that sign 2-year deals. Kind of just depends on the team and the player. Now, talking maximum salary, I've been told there are players as high as $215,000 right now in the league, and there are a decent amount of players around $150,000 to $180,000. Overall, I think that's pretty high for an inaugural season of a professional gaming league. But what Monte Cristo thinks is by Season 3, we could be seeing players in the millions. Let's go ahead and roll this clip from Oversight hosted by Thorn and Monte Cristo with guest Reinforce and Mr. X.
So now that we know how successful it's going to be, I guarantee you, year 3, there's going to be $1 million contract on. I promise you.
Do you
that's
trust the
case.
player's ability to drive up that salary, or do you just think the teams will be like...
The teams will drive it up.
Yeah, the teams will drive it up. It's just about performance. The thing that's interesting about the Flower contract is that Flower, you look, most likely signed to NYXL, right? He's technically a free agent, but like, what does that do to the other guys on NYXL? Like, let's say they win the Overwatch League.
They then continue to go on and talk about Flowers' contract, how it could impact the New York Excelsior and their players, which is a topic for another day. The main topic I want to focus on is that Monte Cristo thinks that 100% there will be a contract in the millions come Season 3. That's a lot of money. Now, I'm sure Monte Cristo has an amazing idea how successful the Overwatch League is behind the scenes with investors and sponsors. So if there were somebody to predict what the salaries would possibly be at, I think Monte Cristo would be a good guy to go to. And looking at the Overwatch League from the outside, it's been super successful. There's a lot of viewers still. Every single match gets at least 70k consistent viewers on Twitch. That's pretty incredible in my opinion. I was expecting 70k at like peak times when we're watching New York Excelsior and Seoul Dynasty go at it on a Friday night. And I expected that in like a stage 1, not stage 4. So it's going great, and because of this, the demand of players and wanting to have one of the best teams in the league, these organizations are going to put out a ton of money. Now, he did say he thinks a contract will be in the millions. He didn't specifically say he thinks multiple ones will be, but it's still possible that a lot of contracts can be nearing the millions. And honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. It's very possible, especially with a player like Jonak. He could easily get offered from Philadelphia Fusion. They're owned by Comcast. Those guys have millions, billions almost of dollars. If they really wanted to front $1 million to get their team to that next level so they could win a championship, I don't see why not. I would. The return on investment would be insane. Because if you're winning the championship or one of the best teams in the league, paying that player is 100% worth it. Because at the end of the day, you're going to make all of that money back and more. Plus, you have a championship. I can 100% see the Philadelphia Fusion doing that. Especially, like I said, they're backed by Comcast. They're super rich. Same with the Boston Uprising. They're owned by freaking Robert Kraft. He likes to win. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to put money out to get a good player. So it's very likely, and to think about it, man, $1 million, that's so much. And I do understand for some of you guys who might think, oh, there's no way, because that's so much money. $1 million contract just for the 3rd season, and for playing video games. I honestly can't wait to see where the Overwatch League goes. The future is extremely bright. And as for the players, these guys definitely deserve to get paid a lot. They put so much into this game, so much into their teams, practicing, grinding, 8 to 12 hours every single day, guys, even on their off days. These players work extremely hard, and I know a lot of people say playing video game for a living is super easy. Try real sports, it's so physically demanding. Well, yeah, real sports is physically demanding. They're also mentally demanding, but I don't think any of them come close to as mentally demanding as esports is. And specifically the Overwatch League too, because not a lot of other esports have a professional league where you're playing 2 games every single week. There's a ton of breaks in other games between big tournaments when you look at like CSGO. And then you look at like the LCS for League of Legends, I think you only play like 14 or 16 games. I don't know, it could be 10 to 20 games, but I know it's not any more than 20. So they're playing less than half the games the Overwatch League players play. It's brutal out there, man, and I give it up to every single player that is grinding, working their ass off, and dealing with the pressure to their best ability. Because it ain't easy. We've seen a lot of these players crack. Effect, he's a perfect example. He lost his mind because of the pressure, so props to them. So that's pretty much it for this. I'm starting to ramble on about random different things that have to do with salary. So I'm super excited, and I do believe we could reach $1 million contract come season 3. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, if you're excited as well. And now let's go ahead and move on and talk about San Francisco Shock versus Seoul Dynasty, and more specifically Sinatraa. So as I said earlier, this really ties in with Sinatraa because he is publicly known to be the highest paid player in all of Overwatch League. He also didn't start at the beginning with a lot of the other players, which in my opinion I think added a lot of extra pressure on him, with the whole situation of the San Francisco Shock not being that good, and a lot of people saying, oh, they're just waiting for Sinatraa to come in and hopefully he can carry because he's being paid so much. And I think he's done an amazing job so far handling it. He's done nothing but improve. He's had some really good games lately, and specifically this one against the Seoul Dynasty, I think is his best individual performance so far. And he has this weird style about his tracer play. It's so different from anyone else. He'll play like super aggressive. I mean, triple blink onto a Zenyatta, but at the same time, he is so elusive. It's really hard to pin him down and hit shots on him. It's like he's just randomly pulling blinks out of his ass, and he just finds a way to get out without dying. I've mentioned this before talking about tracers. I feel like most of them, you can identify them by a certain playstyle or a certain thing about them, but the really, really good tracers are all around just amazing at everything. You look at Saebyeolbe, you look at Striker, they're so good with their movement, it's really crisp and clean, they hit every shot, they hit most of their pulse bombs. All around, they're very good, and I can see Sinatraa really working his way up there. He has really good aim, and he has really good movement. If he just works a little bit on his pulse bombs and coordination with his teammates, he could end up being in the same tiers as Saebyeolbe or Striker someday. One thing I was worried about for Sinatraa might have been his hero pool. In the past, we've really only seen him play good on Zarya or Tracer. So seeing him be able to flex around a little bit, he's touching heroes like Junkrat, McCree, Widowmaker, and he seems to be holding his own every single time he does it. I think so far the San Francisco Shock have done a great job integrating him into the roster, welcoming him to the team, because it's going really good for them. We also got to see, I think for the first time, a Sinatraa and Architect duo throughout the entire set. There was no swapping for Dante, no swapping for Baby Bay, just straight up Sinatraa in there the entire time, paired with Architect, and these guys were amazing together. There were 2 specific comps that San Francisco Shock ran. It was a Genji Tracer comp where they would dive a lot, and then there was the Tracer Widowmaker comp where they would look for picks. Sinatraa would play a little bit more passively. And both of these worked really well, especially in combination with Super, Nevix, Moth, and Sleepy, very underrated backline. So now we're not really just talking about Sinatraa anymore. This whole team has been proving a lot lately. It seems like this whole team overall has a lot of talent on it. And to be honest, I think if they would have started out with this roster from the beginning, these guys would have been a huge playoff contender. Up there with Philadelphia Fusion, LA Valiant, LA Gladiators, Houston Outlaws, maybe even better. So the Shock, they're looking really strong overall right now. There is a decent chance they could make the stage 4 playoffs. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video when I go over all of the standings. But this match against Seoul Dynasty, they looked really good. Obviously, Seoul Dynasty were running Ryuja Hong on Winston. He didn't look as good as he did in his other matches. Seemed like he got exploited a lot in this one. He was pretty much dead the entire time. Overall, he died 38 times in this match, which is 10 more than the guy who died the second most in this set. As for Fleta, it seemed like he had some decent maps, and then some maps he just didn't do very well at all. Blizzard World, he got completely shut down. But to be fair, he did look pretty good on Oasis, which is the map they won, and then he also did decent on Gibraltar. But it wasn't good enough to win the set. San Francisco Shock looked really strong, and Seoul Dynasty, they looked a bit behind. They were lacking a lot of teamwork. I think that was their biggest issue in this match. Oh, and along with that, Wakid, he was forced on a Bridget a few of the maps, and he did okay on Oasis, but other than that, when he had to touch Bridget, he didn't look good at all. And they're also now sitting in a very shaky spot. We're going to talk about them too when we get to the standings, so stay tuned for that. One thing I really do admire about the San Francisco Shock is the fact that they are still trying very hard. Even though their season is over, they want to win. They want to get in the Stage 4 playoffs. They want to prove that this roster is one of the best in the Overwatch League, and they can contend for the playoffs next season. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and move on now. Talk about the Houston Outlaws, Boston Uprising set, and more specifically the Houston Outlaws overall. Alright, now, it's really fun talking about the Houston Outlaws lately because I know a lot of you guys want to hear me say, oh man, the Houston Outlaws are insane, I'm eating my own words, I was so dumb for thinking that they wouldn't be good. Well, I'm not to that point yet, guys, so save your laughter, save your breath. So far, I think they've gone up against a wounded Boston Uprising who has failed to adapt to the meta and just don't have the right pieces, as well as a wounded London Spitfire who has major confidence issues right now and also hasn't adapted very well to this meta either. I'm really waiting for this matchup against the Los Angeles Gladiators this week because it is going to prove so much to us if the Houston Outlaws really are that team that are going to make the playoffs. Or it will prove that, oh, I was right this whole time. LA Gladiators, they're in a much more better position in this meta. They have the right players to fill the roles. I definitely can see, though, why a lot of Houston Outlaws fans are getting very excited. Their team did go 2-0 in the first week. They beat Boston Uprising and the London Spitfire, two teams historically in the league who have been very good. And I don't blame them for being excited about that. If I was being a fan too, I'd be happy as well because I want to see the Houston Outlaws do good. I have friends on their team. I really enjoy watching them play. And they really are one of the only true all-Western teams. Seriously, guys, it's not like I have anything against them. I would really love to see them do good. But the thing is, I just don't think they will. That's my prediction, that's how I feel about it, and that's pretty much it. There still are some really good things about the Houston Outlaws in these past two games, though. Jake has been playing amazing. He's been a flex god, something that they've lacked all season long, and all of a sudden, they just have it. Seriously, when can anybody here point out a time where they were super impressed with Jake when he wasn't on Junkrat? I feel like every time he's touched Pharah, Genji, Tracer, whatever the hell it is, if it's not Junkrat, he wasn't playing that great, and half the time he was playing really bad. Now all of a sudden, he's a god on Hanzo, he's a god on Bridget, he's a god on Pharah, he's a god on Tracer, he's a god on Genji, and if I had to select an MVP from this roster right now, this stage, it would be Jake for sure. That's not taking anything away from Linkser though. He's also been playing amazing. It seems like during the middle of stage 2 and near the end of stage 3, he was slumping a lot. Well, now in stage 4, seems like Linkser has his confidence back and he is no longer slumping because he has outdueled everybody he's gone up against so far. He's hitting nutty shots, he's playing extremely aggressive, he looks really good. One thing again though to point out, he's going up against a wounded Birdring who hasn't been good against anybody for the past few months and also mistakes one of the worst Widowmakers in the league in my opinion. So it'll be really nice seeing him go up against Surefour, another guy who's been very hot lately. And we'll get to see how good is Linkser. Is he really fully back to his best? Overall, speaking of the set, it wasn't really that close. Houston was able to pick up the first map on Kings Row due to a first hold. Then they won Hanamura due to a really strong hold on second. They did let Oasis slip. Boston picked that up 2-1. But we went on to Gibraltar and Houston. They had another amazing defense. I think so far that's been the best thing about them. Their defense is great. They're stopping teams either on the first point or on the second point. And then it's easy for them to get that far on their attack because eventually Linkser ends up getting a big pick or they're running a nice combo. Oh, and one unique thing that I want to talk about real quick for the Houston Outlaws before I wrap this up is that I actually really do like their mindset about Bridget. They've said in multiple interviews, I think Muma said it, I think Linkser said it, and I think now Jake has said it. They want everybody on their team to be able to play Bridget. That way they're flexible to the maximum. So far we've seen Muma play it, we've seen Jake play it, I think we've seen Raucus play it, maybe Linkser, maybe Cool Matt. We've seen a lot of their players touch Bridget so far. The two notable ones obviously are Jake and Muma, but I think that's a good philosophy to have because Bridget kind of is that hero that isn't defined by a role, but more defined by the heroes around her. So you can kind of just pick her on the role that is needed at the time instead of just specifically putting somebody on it, which makes your team overall really flexible. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not going to eat my own words yet, guys. You can wait for that LA Gladiators match, and if Houston does win that one, then hell, I was completely wrong. I will say anything you guys want me to. But until then, Houston just hasn't proved enough to me yet. I need that solid win over another playoff contender team that is extremely hungry right now. And now I think that's a good lead in to talk about the standings overall and who is actually going to make those playoffs, because we only have 4 more weeks left in the regular season and it's completely up for grabs. And there's teams in danger who we never thought would be in danger. Specifically, Seoul Dynasty, now sitting in rank number 6 at 19-13. Only 1 match ahead of the Houston Outlaws and the LA Gladiators. And if you want to look at maps, Seoul Dynasty actually has less maps won than Houston Outlaws. So if they lose 1 more set and Houston Outlaws wins 1 more than them, Seoul Dynasty is out. Houston Outlaws are in. And that pretty much goes for the LA Gladiators too. Seoul Dynasty is in the scariest spot. And honestly now, after seeing them struggle in week 1 with Ryujihong on main tank, I don't know if they're ever going to return back to form. I think they might miss out. I think Seoul Dynasty is out. Houston or Gladiators is pretty much fighting for that 6th place spot in their match this week. I think winner will take that spot. 100%. Now looking at the other teams, we have Philadelphia Fusion sitting at rank 5. They're 20-12. Plus 15 in maps. They went 2-0 in week 1 and they looked really good. I'm expecting them to win a lot of their matches this stage. Sato looks good, Hotba looks good. I got high expectations for them. Moving on now to rank 4, we also have them sitting at 20-12. It's the Los Angeles Valiant. The Valiant were hard to judge off of week 1. They got a win off of Seoul Dynasty. It was a very close match. They won 3-2. But the San Francisco Shock had a much easier time with Seoul Dynasty than that Valiant did. But to be fair for the Valiant, Seoul Dynasty seemed to play a lot worse against the San Francisco Shock than they did against them. Then the Valiant's second match this week came against the Shanghai Dragons, so it's hard to judge where they're at. I think we're going to hold off on judging them until after this week, similar to the Houston Outlaws. But they're also in danger of dropping out, sitting at 20-12. If they lose a decent amount of their matches this stage, we could see them fall behind Seoul Dynasty, Houston, or even the Gladiators. Then moving on to rank 3, who's also sitting at 20-12, we have the London Spitfire. Another team that a lot of people, including myself, would have never thought they'd be in danger of dropping out of the playoffs. They do have a healthy map lead in comparison to everybody below them, but that's not going to matter if they lose a lot of their matches this stage. Luckily for them, they did get their New York Excelsior match out of the way, which they have struggled with them, and their Houston Outlaws match out of the way, which they have not beaten yet in the regular season. So now they do have a lot of matches coming up against teams that they have beaten in the past, even when they were struggling in Stage 3. So I think they're probably in a safer spot than a team like LA Valiant, Seoul Dynasty, Houston Outlaws, and LA Gladiators, even though they do look much worse than those teams. As long as they can secure wins against Dallas, Florida, Shanghai, they will more than likely be moving on. And then if they get a lucky one off of maybe Gladiators, Dynasty, Fusion, Boston, something like that, they're secured in for sure. So they're probably the safer team who is at risk right now. Then we have the Boston Uprising sitting at 22-10. They're pretty safe. I don't think there's any way for them to drop out. The New York Excelsior, they're already in. So overall, the standings, they're tighter than I thought they'd be at this point, and this makes for some amazing matches coming up. This week, like I've mentioned already in this video, we have the Houston Outlaws going up against LA Gladiators. That's probably the biggest. But after that, we have London Spitfire taking on San Francisco Shock. London really needs to win this one. If they drop this set, then they'll definitely be in more danger than I think they are right now. Then for the LA Valiant this week, we have some big matches coming up against Florida and Boston. Two teams that might be struggling a little bit, but it'll give us a good idea where LA Valiant is sitting. If they're able to pick up both of these, then LA Valiant's really strong and they're probably going to make it. If they lose one of these, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Then Seoul Dynasty and London are taking on each other Saturday. That'll be a very big match because the loser of that one will also end up in danger of not making it. So overall, it's just crazy, guys. I'm super hyped. Let me know down in the comments who you think are going to make the playoffs. Let me know if you like this video. It's going to be a double upload tonight, guys, so stay tuned for that next video coming up. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.